So that is one mechanism. Another mechanism is converting non-exempt assets to exempt. For example, you have a mortgage on a house, and you have of $200,000, and you have, and your the amount that you're allowed to have, you have $100,000 in excess of the amount that you're allowed to have. You could pay on your mortgage that $100,000. Now, it doesn't pay off the mortgage, but it reduces that mortgage, and it is now an exempt asset because it's part of the house. So that's converting assets. You can list properties for sale. That's converting it to an exempt asset. So we look at the assets and we say, what can we do with these assets, and what is wise for the family to do? Because you don't want to just say, okay, now we've gotten rid of all your assets, but oh gosh, you have no liquidity. So you have to balance all of those factors.
Right. Okay, well, what if you have a disabled child? What are some things to think about? So most of these we think about seniors, but that's another consideration is every once in a while you run into a child that's disabled, and maybe the family doesn't have the funds to pay for their care.
Well, exactly, and there are many aspects about having a disabled child. One aspect is if you're in a skilled nursing facility and you have a disabled child, then anything you gift to that child or to a trust for that child is non-punishable. That's an okay. It won't delay your eligibility.
Okay.
Second thing is you may want to have the child have a safety net of some assets, but still qualify for public benefits because they may be getting SSI, they may be in the facility. It's a little bit different, but you could put it into a special needs trust, and properly drafted special needs trusts that are funded with somebody else's money can be used as a supplemental source, and you still can qualify for public benefits. For a senior, well, for a few seniors, there are some options if they, for example, inherit money after age 60. They can create their own trust with some finagling with having somebody else create it for them, and fund the trust, the special needs trust. So there are ways to take money that you get as a lump sum, fund a special needs trust for yourself or for another, and then have those assets not qualify, or not be countable.
Yeah. So have them be exempt assets, I guess.
Right.
Okay. What's the significance of the order of death of the spouses? And what if the spouse who lives in the home dies first?
Well, that's the other aspect of MediCal planning. First, you've got can the person qualify? And after you qualify them, you say, well, is there going to be a recovery claim on the death of the second? Then the third aspect is, well, what about the estate plan? Because often a person at the home has their revocable trust, and on the death of the first spouse, everything pays to the surviving spouse. That would be not good planning in a MediCal environment. If the community spouse, the spouse in the home rewrites their estate plan, leaving it to a special needs trust through their will, that still is a non-exempt asset for the MediCal. So there's a way to provide for spouses on the order of death and still qualify for benefits.
Okay. Gosh, sounds like you need an attorney when you're doing this sort of stuff.
Well, not a lot of this is well known. It's, I've unfortunately had people come in and say, well, I spent down to $2,000, now I need your help. And I'm saying it's too late. I'm sorry.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you're on MediCal, how much do you need to pay each month?
Well, if you're on MediCal, what you are paying each month is what's considered a monthly deductible. It is your share of cost. You pay the first X dollars. And the dollars depends on your income. Now, that's quite simple when there's a single person. your income, less this $35 you get to keep aside, less any health insurance premiums you have to pay, less any support orders you might be ordered to pay, and the balance goes to the facility or as your share of cost. So it might get spread out to the facility or the medications or doctors you see. If you're married, it's quite different. The spouse who lives at home is allowed to keep a minimum amount. If their income, let's say the wife is at home and she has a $500 Social Security income, and the husband is in the skilled nursing facility and he has a $3,000 pension, he can pay about $2,300 to the, no, $2,200 to the spouse at home to meet her minimum.
Okay.
Okay. Now she can have, there is no limit on her maximum income. So anything she earns is hers. One reason, if you have rental property, you want it all to be paid to the spouse at home.
Okay. All right, so then we get to the end of the line of these things. We talked about a little bit before, but now benefits have to be repaid to the state after a death, or?
MediCal benefits have to be repaid, and that's very important because there are many other kinds. Medicare benefits do not get repaid.
Right, okay.
So if somebody's on Medicare and they're getting their care paid for by Medicare, there's no recovery.
Right.
But anything that the state of California, through its Medicaid, MediCal program, pays, they have to be repaid upon the death of the MediCal beneficiary, except if the MediCal beneficiary leaves a surviving spouse or leaves a surviving disabled child of any age, or leaves a minor child. Then there is no recovery claim, except that on the death of the spouse, then there is a claim. So the idea in MediCal planning is to divest the MediCal beneficiary of all assets, put it in the name of the surviving spouse, and then upon the death of the MediCal beneficiary, there's nothing from the estate of that beneficiary to recover because it's limited to what they own.
Now what happens, again, related to the home?
Again, it's an exempt asset. It will not be recovered against until death of both spouses.
Okay.
And
but it's
if
like
it
a
has
claim
been,
that's
no,
sitting-
it's not a claim. It's
Okay.
not, there's no lien against it. Nothing attaches until the death of the second spouse. So therefore, if it's the house comes out of the name of the MediCal beneficiary or is held in a life estate, that is an exempt asset and will not be recovered. And then on the death of the second, if the MediCal beneficiary didn't own it at death, there's no recovery whatsoever.
Wow.
So they can pass it on to their beneficiaries.
Okay, good. Well, like I said, sounds like you need an attorney when you do this stuff. I really appreciate you sharing some of this information. This is something, again, that's not common knowledge. You know, many people think that they can't qualify for these benefits when in fact that possibly that they can if they do some special planning. So, get thee to an attorney. And thank you again, Jan. Jan's website, www.besson.yarbrough, it's YARBROUGH.com. And I'll see you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.
Thank you.